Hi, it's Scot Tempesta from Sailing Anarchy. We're back with another retro video. By the way, just a quick thing. Some of our boats are metro, some are retro. We're tired of going back and forth, we're too lazy, we're dropping the metro. It's just retro. But today actually is a metro boat. But like I said, we'll call it retro. Today, we're doing the Flying Tiger 10 meter.
1, 2, 3, listen.
All right, I'm in the cockpit of the Flying Tiger 10 meter. This boat is hull number 9. A lot of them went to China, and basically this boat was designed to go to China in some of the sailing clubs, but it turned into something else, and I've got a really good story about that, which I'll tell a little bit later. But so the first thing I want you to notice about the cockpit is nice, right? Super long. It's wide, considering that the boat's only 9.15 feet wide. The boat weighs about 4,300 pounds. It's got a super long water line. It's really deep. It's over 7.5 feet deep, which it has to with a big lead bulb down there. I think there's a couple thousand pounds in the bulb itself. When you have a narrow boat, there's two ways to get stability. One is a really deep bulb keel, and the other one's about 20 people on the rail. Well, you're not going to do 20 people, but even as this boat is, when you race it, it's really nice to have, really, a minimum of 7. And you'd like to have 8 anytime there's any breeze at all, because the boat is tippy. This boat has changed from the original stock boats, as have almost all of them. And one of the notable ways that it changed is when the boat was first built and delivered, it came with a fiberglass cassette that was mounted on the back of the boat, and it always stayed there. You lifted the rudder out of the cassette and just stored it wherever you wanted to store it. Couple of huge problems. The manufacturing process was a nightmare. The amount of slop and wiggle in that cassette with the rudder in there is legendary. I mean, you could literally feel the thing like banging from side to side. Last time I checked, that's not very fast. And the other thing is the original rudder, it was both heavy and bendy, like the two worst things in the world. So you could literally see when the boat was loaded up, you could literally see the rudder bending. Well, the class got together and figured out that was a no-go. So commissioned Jim Betts to design and build a new rudder, which this boat has right here. You essentially pull the rudder out of the boat every time you're not using it, because why would you let it be in the water? It's just gonna get growth on it, maybe absorb some water. That's a no-go. So the new rudder is significantly lighter, way stiffer, and a much more efficient design. And that has made the boat a lot better of a boat just by taking care of that, which they didn't do from the factory. I'm gonna take you forward and show another thing that they did, but maybe didn't do it as well as they could have. So I'm not here to bury the Flying Tiger 10. I love the Flying Tiger 10 meter. I loved him so much, I bought 2 of them. But there were some things that just should have been done better. The non-skid is a perfect example. It is slippery. Now, this boat's 14 years old, and of course it wears out, but even from the jump, the non-skid was never particularly good. And so you do tend to slide on this boat a bit. But one of the other things that they did, conceptually beautiful. If you've sailed on a Melgus 32, if you sailed on even a Hobie 33, well, for example, we did Captain Sluggo, you saw how beautifully they did their outboard, and in this boat, they did it here, and it belongs here, right? You want the weight in the middle of the boat. You don't want an outboard back there hanging off the transom, for God's sake, and you certainly don't want an inboard in a 4,300 pound sport boat. So what they did is they put the engine, the outboard right here. Okay, and that's great. But you'll see some of the residue, no pun intended, of jamming a big motor in here in a space that is just not that big. And engines do not like to live in this tiny, dank, damp area that gets hardly any ventilation. The boat has a vent that does feed air to the engine, but it's just such a poorly done thing, and mostly it's the trap door. So, right, you know how these things work. You pull the engine all the way up when you're done motoring. You reach down and close the trap door, and it's theoretically should align flush with the bottom of the hull, and then you go racing. And when you're done racing, you open up the trap door and you lower the engine down. This has got a block and tackle system. I won't go through it. It works, but it's very primitive. When these boats were brand new, two things happened to them. The first boats that sailed in San Diego, the trap doors fell off. Like they literally came off the boat. They're sailing along and the trap door came off. And so everybody that got one of these had to go through some modification of their trap door to make it not only work and not only not fall off the bottom of the boat, but try to make it as flush to the bottom of the hull as you can. If you've seen a Melgus 32, that's exactly how you do it. But then again, a Melgus 32 is probably a $200,000 boat these days, I would think. Certainly $160, $170, gotta be. So this is a substantially cheaper boat, built in China. No diss on China, because God knows they build terrific boats. But this execution, much like the Rudder, left a lot to be desired. But you know, if you owned a Flying Tiger, you just dealt with it. It's just the way it was, and this is the way it is. Before we leave the cockpit area, I did want to show you the backstay on this boat. It's a double spreader, swept back rig, so it doesn't need runners, thank God. And it hardly ever uses the backstay on this boat. Really and truly, you just don't use it. It mostly flops in the wind, but this is how they did it. Everybody's done a different version of the block and tackle system. That some people have the cascading, which this does to a degree, and then they do most of the purchase here on the cockpit floor. If you take a look all the way up to the masthead, so you wonder what that giant black thing is up there. Well, that's a backstay flicker, and it's essentially a batten, a relatively soft but strong batten that when you pull the backstay on, it keeps it away from the headboard on the boat. So if you don't do that, you'll have a headboard that won't go through from the mast through the backstay, and especially if you have a full roach main, it really won't clear up there. And even more so, if you have a fathead main, which this boat does not, it should have, but it doesn't, the main won't go through. So the flicker basically puts the backstay away from the headboard and the leech of the mainsail, but it's flexible enough so that when you pull the backstay on, you're able to get tension on there without breaking the flicker. So you guys all know by now about my window obsession. I like good looking windows, and God knows we've been on enough boats where they really do look nice, some not so nice. This is actually better than it was when it was conceived. So the boat's a Flying Tiger, right? Made in China. So we wanted to make the window look like a Chinese eye. Well, okay, all right. But the way it was originally drawn, I mean, I had to beat Bill Stevens, who owned the whole process. I had to beat him over the head with a stick, because the window originally was like, it went all the way up to here. It was this huge, like almost an eyesore. So I'm like, Bill, you gotta make the window smaller. And he kept like, nah. And I'm like, come on. We finally settled on that. So it's at least acceptable looking, but that's the concept behind the window. Okay. So one of the nice things that this boat came with is a kelp cutter, which is so great, right? There it is, it's in its own tube, goes all the way down to the bottom of the keel. The leading edge is virtually vertical, and it's 7.5 feet down there. So anything in the water that can catch, it will catch. So kelp cutter, absolutely essential. Though as delivered from the factory, it was not very good. It was actually terrible and almost completely unusable, and it leaked water. It would piss water up from this poorly implemented thing. So a lot of us went to Brad Fitzgerald from Fitzgerald Racing and had this whole thing redone. The entire leading edge of the keel, the tube, everything about it was modified, and it's really an essential thing, especially here in San Diego, but anywhere where there's anything. Gotta have a kelp cutter. This boat came with it. How you like that prod? That's pretty impressive. Now, personally, if I was doing this boat, I'd have it about 3-4 feet longer, just because you can never have enough sail area, especially downwind. This boat hauls ass downwind. It's really fast, narrow, relatively light, giant masthead spinnakers, and of course, fractional for the jib. It works good. The Flying Tiger is known for being one of the very best boats, especially in light to medium downwind. In a big breeze, they're a little bit of a handful, but what isn't? A little interesting design cue on this boat is how it has a little hollow here at the waterline from the bow to that section. And some people say that that will cause bow steer. That is, the bow will want to steer itself. It doesn't. It just gives the boat a really nice flow there. The boat's able to pop up a little bit better, I think, and the boat is very directional, and I think that's probably because of that. You don't see a lot of boats with that. I happen to like it, and I think it works, and just given how fast the boat is, it does work, clearly. The foredeck area is exactly what you think it is. There's not a lot that goes on up here, right? You just raise and lower the jib. These guys have a furler because they also day sail with their family. Most of them either have just a regular headstay with hanks. That's kind of what people have gone to. They've gotten away from the furler, which came standard on the boat. The house is too long because it's just, well, why? I mean, there's no reason for this. It should have been lower and probably should have ended about here. So the whole foredeck could be relatively flat. So for just simply getting around the boat, not having to step over this, and with the bad non-skid, you know, it's okay, but it is what it is, and it works. It's nice. I like it. Let's go down below. Okay, we're down below, and it's really hard to get comfortable down here. I mean, if you want to sit here, well, you could sit like that, or you can sit down here and slouch and basically never be able to get back up. But okay, it's a race boat, right? But it's not exactly a full race boat. I swear to you, you can sleep 6 people down here, 6 adults. I know, because I had full interior cushions made for my Flying Tiger because I like to camp on it. I mean, we did the full white trash hillbilly camping on this thing. I had a quarter berth cushions made, and it's huge back there. I had settee cushions made, and you can easily sleep here, an adult can. And the forepeak is actually really big, and I'll show you that in a minute because that's a really interesting little area. So you could sleep 6. You wouldn't sleep 6. In fact, you might actually sleep 0 on this boat because, well, it's just kind of a rough, sort of unfinished, pretty uncomfortable place to be most of the time. But hey, give them credit for it. I mean, I did it. I had girlfriend, kids. Yeah, I did the whole thing. I wouldn't do it again. So the thing I'm standing next to here is, or sitting next to here, is the keel box. This is a lifting keel boat, and is it sketchy? I think that's a good word to say. That's what this is for right here. You remove that, you hook up the lifting system, and you take some bolts out of here, there's a keel in there, and you can lift the keel up and it goes right through there. And the reason why you would is for trailering. These boats were designed to have the option to trail, right? If this was a fixed keel at 7.5 feet, you're not going to trail the thing. But if you can lift the keel up, you can trail the thing, you can ramp launch the thing. We never were interested in that, and one of the things that you have with lifting keels, you have a little gap around the top of the keel and the hull, and it's nice to fill that in. Not that I ever did, but you certainly could fill that in if you wanted to. Here's the galley. Damn nice. There's a sink, but there's no water and no drain. Okay. It actually came with like a little jug for water, and I don't think it actually ever had a drain because they knew nobody was going to use this. Keel step mast, which is nice. Got a couple supports here, and it's done efficiently. When you build an inexpensive production boat in not necessarily even China, in anywhere, there's going to be problems. One of the problems that most of these boats had, I know that my first boat did for sure, and we had it fixed, and the second boat came with it already fixed, and that is the keel step mast has a tendency to want to crush the structure underneath it. That's never good. So the mast tends to sink down a little bit, and you would lose shroud, headstay, tension. Not good. So what most all these boats did, pulled the rig out, redid the fiberglass, put like a G10 or some really nice solid plate in there, extended the whole area so that when the load is there, it's not specific, it's spread out a little bit. It fixed the problem, and it's the way you got to do it if you're going to get a Flying Tiger and race it. Let me show you up forward. Pretty interesting. All right, I'm in the forepeak of this boat. Look, honest to goodness, 2 people, 2 adults. I mean, I'm hardly an adult. And I'm really not even adult size, but trust me, you can fit a couple adults up here. Again, put cushions here.
If you want to overnight on the boat, you certainly can. There's a porta potty right here, a specific place for it. I mean, heck, this thing's a full-on cruiser, yo. That's all I know.
So this is the Flying Tiger. Truly one of my favorite boats of all time. Raced so much on these boats, love almost every single thing about the performance. Definitely geared towards light air, medium air, not so much in a breeze, especially upwind. But a fabulous boat. Hope you enjoyed the tour. There's a great story behind this boat. I mean, there's quite a history from the initial conception to the build to the class development. I had a hand in it, Sailing Anarchy had a hand in it, the designer Robert Perry did, and then the builder himself, Bill Stevens, did as well. We're going to do a whole series of kind of backstories on some of the boats that we do, and this boat has a great one. We're going to have a playlist on our YouTube channel where you can find those, and we're going to do one of these right away so you can go find it. And I think you'll really enjoy it because this has a story like really no other boat does. And if you like the video, you got to click that like thing, and you must subscribe to the channel. I mean, you'd be an idiot if you didn't, and hit that subscribe thing, and then we're all good. For Nobleman Productions and for Sailing Anarchy, I'm Scot Tempesta. We out.